If you are truly a chosen one, you already know your life has never been ordinary. You weren't born to blend in or play it safe. You were sent here to disrupt systems, awaken sleeping souls, and walk a path that many are too afraid to even look at. But that divine calling doesn't come without resistance. The brighter your light, the more darkness will try to surround you. And many times, the greatest threats aren't loud or obvious. They're subtle, disguised, and dangerously close. These are the hidden enemies that seek to distract, delay, and destroy your mission. Some of these enemies come wearing masks of love. Others speak with the voice of reason, yet aim to sabotage your vision. And then there are those who operate in the spiritual realm, unseen but deeply felt, whether through family conflict, deceptive friends, spiritual oppression, or your own inner doubts. The chosen ones are constantly being tested. But here's the truth: awareness is power. Once you know what you're really up against, they lose control. Your discernment becomes your shield. Your wisdom becomes your sword. In this video, we're going to expose 7 enemies every chosen one must be aware of. Not to create fear, but to equip you with clarity and spiritual strength. Because once you see them for what they are, you will stop entertaining them, stop giving them power, and start walking in your true authority. If this message is already awakening something inside you, type "No more manipulation" in the comments right now. And please, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another moment of revelation. One of the most devastating forms of spiritual warfare a chosen one will ever face doesn't come from outside. It comes from within the home. Family, the place meant to nurture and protect, often becomes the first battlefield. The place where you hope to find peace becomes a war zone of criticism, judgment, and emotional manipulation. For many chosen ones, their awakening comes with painful rejection from those closest to them. Instead of support, you receive suspicion. Instead of celebration, you get silence. And when you try to explain your calling or the transformations happening inside you, you're met with blank stares, harsh words, or laughter that wounds deeper than knives. You're not imagining it. The resistance is real. Your spiritual glow reveals what others are hiding. And when they can't control or understand you, they often choose to oppose you. The reason this enemy is so difficult to confront is because it wears the face of people you love. Your parents, siblings, extended family, those who watched you grow, often become the very people who can't accept who you're becoming. You're stepping out of the generational mold, breaking traditions they still cling to, and that challenges everything they believe. It's not that you're wrong, it's that your evolution threatens their sense of reality. When you no longer participate in the drama, the dysfunction, or the fear-based thinking, they take it personally. But you are not here to maintain the old ways. You are here to break chains, not polish them. And breaking chains often means being labeled the black sheep, the difficult one, or the lost soul, when in reality, you are the only one who's truly awakening. What hurts the most is that these attacks don't come from strangers. They come from people who know your soft spots, your history, your wounds. They know exactly what to say to destabilize you. You're not making sense. You're too emotional. Who do you think you are? These words don't just hurt your feelings, they aim to crush your spirit. You walk away from conversations with a heaviness that lingers. You start questioning yourself, wondering if maybe they're right. But deep inside, your soul keeps whispering, you were never meant to stay small. This inner conflict between external disapproval and divine guidance becomes one of the hardest battles you will ever face. But make no mistake, choosing your path over their approval is not disrespect. It is self-preservation. Many chosen ones feel trapped in cycles of silence and suppression. You swallow your truth just to keep the peace. You pretend to agree just to avoid another argument. You shrink yourself because it's easier than being the constant target of criticism. But each time you do that, you die a little inside. Your spirit knows you were made for more, and that internal pressure starts to build because you were not chosen to conform. You were chosen to confront, to liberate, to lead. But how do you lead when your own family tries to dim your light? The answer isn't in fighting them. It's in staying rooted in who you are, even if that means walking alone for a season. There's a unique pain that comes from achieving something beautiful and having no one in your family celebrate it. In fact, sometimes, the more you grow, the more they withdraw. Your success is seen not as inspiration, but as threat. They minimize your victories. They joke about your dreams. They question your motives. All of this creates a toxic emotional environment that drains you mentally, spiritually, and physically. And what makes it worse is that you still crave their love. You still want that connection. That longing creates an emotional vulnerability that toxic family dynamics will exploit again and again. It becomes a cycle of hope and hurt, of reaching out and getting burned, of trusting and being let down. Even worse, unresolved sibling rivalries and generational trauma add fuel to the fire. When you, the chosen one, start to heal, grow, and elevate, it exposes what others are not willing to deal with. Your transformation becomes a trigger. Your peace becomes offensive. Your success becomes a mirror, showing them everything they've avoided. And instead of choosing to evolve with you, many will turn against you. The jealousy might not always be loud, but it is deeply present in the tone of their voice, the look in their eyes, the tension in the air. And through it all, you're left wondering, why is the place I expected love the one giving me the most pain? If you've ever felt like you had to dim your light to survive your family dynamic, you're not alone. This is a common battlefield for chosen ones because your awakening threatens everything familiar. And the sad truth is, many families don't want healing. They want silence. They don't want you to rise. They want you to stay where they feel safe. But you were not sent here to be comfortable. You were sent here to be called, refined, and risen. It may hurt. It may be lonely, but you must make peace with this truth. Your family may never fully understand your purpose, and that's okay. Because the Creator did not give them your vision, He gave it to you. Not every enemy wears a scowl or comes with obvious malice. Some come smiling, laughing at your jokes, calling you brother or sister, checking in on you just enough to keep your trust alive. These are the frenemies, false friends, spiritual deceivers hiding in plain sight. They study your moves not to support you, but to compete with you. They listen to your dreams only to secretly mock them. They appear when blessings start flowing in your life, but they're mysteriously absent in your darkest moments. And while you mistake them for companionship, they quietly work against you, praying for your downfall while pretending to cheer you on. It's subtle, it's slow, and it's deeply spiritual. Because when the enemy cannot destroy you from the outside, he will infiltrate your circle. The betrayal of a frenemy is one of the most painful spiritual wounds a chosen one can experience. These people don't attack you with force. They attack your faith. They get close to your heart, not to protect it, but to weaponize what they find there. They take your insecurities and turn them into weapons. They find out what you love and use it to manipulate you. You tell them your struggles in confidence, and they twist your words behind your back. They use your authenticity as ammunition. And the worst part? You don't even see it coming. Because while you're loving from your heart, they're operating from a spirit of envy, competition, and bitterness. These aren't just petty human behaviors. These are spiritual assignments meant to weaken you from within. Frenemies are masters of performance. They perform loyalty. They perform concern. They even perform spiritual connection. But it's all a mask, one designed to gain access to your energy. And once they're in your space, they begin to sow seeds of doubt, discouragement, and distortion. They'll say things like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" Or, "I don't know if this is really your calling." These statements aren't advice. They're attacks disguised as concern. It's spiritual manipulation at its finest. They want you second-guessing yourself so you'll stay stuck in the same place as them. Because deep down, your growth threatens their stagnation. Your movement reveals their lack of progress. So they work overtime to slow you down while pretending to support you. And if you're not spiritually discerning, you'll mistake their sabotage for love. You'll wonder why you feel drained after spending time with them. You'll question why your clarity starts to fade when they're around. That's not a coincidence. That's energetic warfare. These people carry heavy spiritual baggage, and they attach themselves to you like leeches. They feed off your light while offering nothing of substance in return. You start pouring into them, encouraging them, holding space for them, only to be met with jealousy and silent resentment. But because they never say it out loud, you hesitate to confront it. That hesitation becomes their shield. And as long as they go unchecked, they continue to operate behind the scenes, undermining your confidence and diluting your momentum. Frenemies don't just attack your spirit, they target your relationships too. They spread whispers, plant doubts, twist your words, and make others question your integrity. They thrive in confusion. They need division to maintain control. You'll notice that suddenly, people who used to be close to you start pulling away. Misunderstandings multiply. Disagreements explode out of nowhere. This isn't random. It's intentional. It's orchestrated. The frenemy spirit creates isolation to make you easier to control. They want to be your only source of support so they can continue feeding off your gifts, your wisdom, and your peace. But make no mistake, this isn't just personal. It's spiritual warfare. Their assignment is to delay your destiny by keeping you entangled in emotional distractions. One of the most insidious traits of a frenemy is their tendency to diminish your light, subtly but consistently. They'll downplay your victories, mock your spiritual language, or act unimpressed when God blesses you. "Oh, you're doing that now?" they'll say with a smirk. "That's cute." And though it sounds playful, it's laced with contempt. These little comments may seem harmless, but over time they accumulate. They start to erode your confidence. You begin to feel silly for celebrating yourself. You second-guess whether your progress is even real. That's the goal, to get you to dim your light so they won't feel so insecure in your presence. But here's the truth. Your light is not the problem. Their lack of healing is. If this is resonating in your spirit, it's because God is showing you something. He's revealing who's for you and who's just near you. There's a difference. Being in proximity doesn't mean someone is in alignment. Some people walk with you physically, but war against you spiritually. And once you recognize this, you must act. You don't have to confront them with drama, but you do need to create distance with discernment. Protect your peace. Guard your energy. You are not obligated to keep people in your life just because of history. Some people were meant to be chapters, not lifetimes. There are enemies you can see and confront directly. And then there are those that move in silence, cloaked in darkness, working behind the veil of the visible world. These are the spiritual enemies, invisible forces sent to derail, distract, and destroy the mission of the Chosen One. You don't always know where they come from, but you feel their presence. Suddenly, your mind becomes clouded. Your dreams are filled with chaos. Your energy drops for no reason. You feel confusion, pressure, and anxiety that doesn't belong to you. And what's worse, when you try to explain it to others, they dismiss it as your imagination. But you're not crazy. You're spiritually under attack. These forces are real, and they know exactly who you are and what you're destined to become. These spiritual enemies don't need to shout. They whisper. They creep into your thoughts, amplifying your insecurities, reminding you of every mistake you've made. They don't need chains. They use emotional triggers, inner wounds, and generational trauma. They want to make you believe you're unworthy of the calling on your life. That's how they operate, through deception, distortion, and discouragement. You begin to doubt your discernment, question your intuition, and even second-guess your connection to God. That's not coincidence. It's design. The enemy knows that if he can confuse your mind, he can contaminate your spirit. And once your spirit is disoriented, your purpose becomes harder to pursue. These attacks don't always look dramatic, but they're deadly over time, because they wear you down from the inside out. One of the most common signs of spiritual warfare is mental and emotional fatigue that seems to have no cause. You wake up tired. You feel drained just from existing. Your creativity dries up. Your prayers feel heavy. Your connection to the divine feels distant. These are not just mood swings. They are signs that your spiritual environment has been infiltrated. The enemy cannot stop God's plan for your life, but he can try to weaken you until you walk away from it yourself. That's his ultimate goal, not to destroy the blessing, but to make you feel unworthy of receiving it. So he plants lies like, "You'll never be enough," or "God is silent because you're doing something wrong." These lies, if not identified and rebuked, become strongholds in the mind. And then come the distractions. Out of nowhere, conflicts arise. Unexpected issues demand your attention. Toxic people reappear. Your focus shatters. That's not random, it's spiritual interference. These entities work over time to pull you out of alignment. They know that if you remain spiritually centered, you become unstoppable. So they send chaos. They send temptations. They send emotional triggers to pull you back into old patterns. And if you're not grounded in your spiritual practice, you'll begin to believe that all this turmoil means you're failing. But the truth is, spiritual attacks often intensify when you're closest to a breakthrough. That's why you must not retreat. You must press in deeper, pray harder, declare louder, fast, worship, surround yourself with light until the darkness no longer has a place to land. These invisible enemies are not just attacking your emotions, they're targeting your connection to the divine. They try to interfere with your ability to pray, to meditate, to hear clearly from God. You sit down to connect, and your mind becomes flooded with noise. You try to focus, and suddenly your phone rings, someone knocks at your door, or anxiety floods your body. These are not accidents, they are strategic distractions. The enemy knows that your power source is your spiritual alignment. So if he can keep you disconnected, he can keep you disarmed. That's why spiritual discipline is not optional for the chosen one. It is survival. The more consistent your connection, the more clearly you'll see through the enemy's tactics and shut them down before they take root. Sometimes, these spiritual attacks manifest through the people closest to you. You'll notice sudden tension with loved ones, betrayal from those you trusted, or gossip you didn't see coming. That's not just personal, it's spiritual. These entities can influence people who are not spiritually protected to become vessels for attack. Someone can be used without even realizing it. That's why discernment is so important. You can't take everything at face value. You must ask, is this person being used right now? Is this situation a distraction or a test? When you start seeing through spiritual eyes, you'll stop reacting emotionally and start responding from a place of divine strategy. You'll stop wasting energy on battles that don't matter and start protecting your peace with holy authority. The longer these attacks go unnoticed, the more they drain you. It becomes a cycle. Oppression leads to confusion, confusion leads to stagnation, stagnation leads to despair. And before you know it, you're not just tired, you're spiritually numb. You stop praying, you stop believing, you stop moving. And that's exactly what the enemy wants. For you to surrender the battle because it feels endless. But hear me, chosen one, your spirit is stronger than the storm. The power within you is not your own. It's divine. And when you rise in that awareness, no darkness can stand against you. Not every enemy comes to attack you head-on. Some appear as helpful voices, trusted mentors, or even loving family members giving you practical advice. These enemies of your destiny are often disguised as good intentions, but they are rooted in fear, limitation, and human logic, not divine vision. They'll tell you to play it safe, take the secure path, ignore your instincts, and be realistic. But chosen one, your mission is not about being realistic, it's about being obedient to your calling. And often, what God asks of you will look foolish to the world. These voices, though well-meaning on the surface, are dangerous because they can cause you to abort your purpose prematurely. And if you're not spiritually grounded, you might follow their counsel and walk straight into a life that feels normal, but spiritually dead. Sometimes, the enemy of your destiny isn't a person. It's a situation, a sudden loss, a betrayal, a financial collapse, a delay you didn't expect. These moments are not coincidences. They are designed to test your resilience and distract you from the greater purpose hidden inside the chaos. It feels like everything is falling apart, but in truth, these disruptions are spiritual traps, attempts to make you quit, to make you question if God really spoke to you, to seduce you into settling. The pain is real, but the deception is subtle. If the enemy can convince you that the hardship means you've failed, you might walk away from the path just before your breakthrough arrives. But remember, destiny is forged in fire. Every setback is a setup for glory. If you refuse to give in to the lie, there will be people in your life who can see your potential, but instead of celebrating it, they try to control it. These individuals become territorial, manipulative, and competitive, not because they don't believe in you, but because they do. Your elevation threatens their comfort. Your clarity makes them confront their confusion. So, they'll do whatever it takes to box you in, to limit your movement, and to keep you small enough to manage. And if you don't recognize this behavior for what it is, an enemy of your destiny, you might shrink yourself out of loyalty. But chosen one, loyalty to people should never be stronger than loyalty to your purpose. You weren't born to play small to protect someone else's insecurity. The longer you stay confined, the further you drift from the path God carved just for you. Another way the enemy of destiny works is through emotional attachments that drain your focus. Not all relationships are aligned with your calling. Some are distractions wrapped in desire, draining you spiritually while pretending to fill you emotionally. You stay because of the history, the chemistry, or the potential. But deep down, you know something is off. These relationships may not be abusive, but they are delaying. They aren't evil, but they aren't divine. They're good enough to keep you comfortable, but not great enough to grow your spirit. That's how the enemy traps the chosen, through stagnation that feels like peace. But any peace that costs your purpose is false peace. You cannot walk into your destiny while dragging dead weight, and God will often remove what you refuse to release. Internal doubt is perhaps the most deceptive enemy of destiny. You hear the calling, but your mind starts playing games. What if I'm not ready? What if I fail? What will people think? These thoughts don't come from God. They come from fear, trauma, and the residue of past wounds. And if you give those thoughts too much space, they will grow roots in your mind. You'll start believing that the vision was too big, that you were being unrealistic, that maybe you misheard God. This internal sabotage is one of the most difficult to overcome, because it's you fighting you. But here's the truth. Your destiny doesn't require you to be perfect. It requires you to be faithful. Faith is not the absence of fear. It's the courage to move anyway. And when you move with faith, heaven moves with you. Sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who unknowingly become enemies of your destiny. Not because they want to hurt you, but because they don't understand you. They give advice based on their own limitations. They warn you out of fear, not discernment. And while their words seem caring, they are rooted in unbelief. That unbelief, if you absorb it, becomes a ceiling in your spirit. It blocks your courage. It blurs your vision. You begin to seek their approval more than you seek divine confirmation. But chosen one, you cannot build a life of purpose on the opinions of people who were never called to your mission. Their approval is not your fuel. Their understanding is not your confirmation. The only yes you need is the one from God. If you've ever felt like something invisible was trying to derail your progress, distort your direction, or delay your promise, you're not imagining it. These are enemies of destiny, subtle, spiritual, and strategic. But the good news is this: the moment you recognize them, you take back your authority. No weapon formed against your purpose can prosper when you walk in alignment, clarity, and divine conviction. Let this be your turning point. Stop explaining yourself to people who aren't assigned to your calling. Stop waiting for signs when God already gave you the vision. Move boldly, speak prophetically, live unapologetically. Competitive enemies are not like ordinary rivals. These are people who don't just want to succeed. They want to succeed at your expense. They don't just want to win, they want to watch you lose. And often, they smile in your face while secretly plotting your downfall. These individuals are threatened by your anointing, your presence, your authenticity. You carry something that can't be bought, imitated, or replicated, and that frustrates those who have built their identity on performance. They obsess over your movements, not to admire, but to imitate or sabotage. These enemies operate strategically. They move in silence. They pretend to support you, while secretly working to block your growth. Their goal isn't to compete fairly, it's to dominate through manipulation, influence, and deception. One of their favorite tactics is to damage your reputation without ever touching you directly. They spread rumors and half-truths, using subtle jabs in conversations to make others doubt your integrity. You'll notice people distancing themselves from you for no clear reason, opportunities suddenly disappearing, and connections that once flowed smoothly now feeling strained. That's the result of behind-the-scenes sabotage. These competitive enemies operate like spiritual snipers, attacking from hidden places, hoping you'll never trace the wound back to them. And when you're confused or emotionally vulnerable, it becomes harder to see clearly. But here's what you need to remember. When someone feels the need to discredit you, it's because they know they can't surpass you. Another devastating weapon of competitive enemies is distraction. When they can't outrun you, they'll try to slow you down. They'll create unnecessary drama, provoke emotional responses, and stir up conflict just to steal your focus. It could be an argument that derails your entire day, a sudden crisis that diverts your attention, or petty issues that require your energy but yield no fruit. These distractions aren't accidental. They're demonic in origin. The goal is to wear you out emotionally and spiritually, so you'll stop pursuing your calling. And if you fall into that trap, you'll find yourself constantly reacting instead of building. But once you learn to guard your energy, to discern what deserves your attention and what doesn't, you begin to disarm their tactics. You stay focused, and they lose control. Comparison is another subtle yet brutal weapon. These enemies constantly showcase their accomplishments, not to inspire, but to intimidate. They want you to feel like you're behind, like you're not doing enough, like your pace is too slow. They magnify their wins and minimize yours. But what they don't realize is that your timing is divine. You're not moving according to the world's calendar. You're moving in alignment with God's blueprint. The chosen one is not designed to peak early, but to last long. While others sprint, you're being stretched. While others impress, you're being refined. And when your season arrives, it won't be temporary. It'll be undeniable. That's why you must silence the noise and walk boldly in your unique rhythm. Competitive enemies are also opportunists. They'll pretend to be your ally just to gain access to your insights, your ideas, your strategies, only to twist them, replicate them, or even take credit for them. They feed off your originality because they lack their own. And once they've extracted what they need, they move on, leaving you depleted and confused. This spiritual parasitism is common for chosen ones because your mind is fertile soil. But not everyone deserves to harvest what you've cultivated in prayer, pain, and obedience. That's why God is calling you to protect your vision, guard your anointing, and use wisdom when sharing your plans. You don't need to expose everything. Sacred things must remain sacred. Sometimes, these competitive enemies see your destination before you arrive and rush to claim your spot. They sense what God is doing in your life and try to run ahead, using shortcuts, favors, or deception to position themselves where you were destined to stand. But what they don't understand is that your seat at the table is reserved. It has your spiritual name engraved on it. No matter who gets there first, they can't sustain what wasn't meant for them. What's built on manipulation eventually collapses. But what's built on God's timing stands forever. You don't have to rush. You don't have to fight dirty. Stay in position, remain faithful. What's yours will always find its way to you. So don't get distracted by small-minded competition. Your assignment is too great to waste energy proving yourself to people operating from insecurity. While they're chasing applause, you're chasing purpose. While they're trying to be seen, you're being prepared. That's the difference. Let them compete. You consecrate. Let them strive. You surrender. Let them perform. You remain authentic. That's your power. That's your peace. And that's why they can't stop you. One of the most dangerous enemies the chosen one must overcome is not external. It lives within. Low self-esteem is a silent destroyer. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It speaks in doubt, hesitation, and subtle sabotage. It tells you you're not enough, not ready, not capable. And if you're not careful, you begin to confuse its voice with your own. This inner enemy is often birthed in childhood, through criticism, neglect, comparison, or trauma. Words spoken over you long ago become roots that wrap around your self-worth. And even as you grow spiritually, even as you awaken to your calling, those inner scripts remain. You begin to see the vision, but feel unworthy of fulfilling it. You sense greatness inside, but second-guess every step toward it. That is the weapon of low self-esteem. It keeps you from rising, not because you lack power, but because you forget it's already inside of you. Low self-esteem doesn't always show up as sadness or insecurity. Sometimes it looks like perfectionism, the need to overwork, to prove yourself, to constantly seek validation. All of it stems from a wounded sense of worth. You strive for excellence, not because you love what you do, but because you're terrified of being seen as not good enough. You avoid taking risks, not because you lack vision, but because you're afraid of failing publicly. You stay in toxic relationships, not because you're unaware of your value, but because you're afraid no one else will love you. These behaviors aren't laziness, they're spiritual fatigue. You're carrying emotional wounds that haven't been addressed, and those wounds bleed into every area of your life. Your purpose, your decisions, your relationships, your faith. Until you confront the root, the fruit will always be rotten. Another deadly trait of low self-esteem is chronic comparison. In today's world of curated images and highlight reels, it's easy to fall into the trap of measuring your life against someone else's timeline. You begin to feel like you're late, like you're not doing enough, like you've already missed your moment. But chosen one, your timing is not delayed, it's divine. The enemy uses comparison to blur your vision, to make you resent your process, and ultimately to abandon your path. You were never meant to walk like them, look like them, or achieve like them. Your path is sacred, specific, and deeply spiritual. But low self-esteem blinds you to that truth. It convinces you that your uniqueness is a flaw instead of a feature. And that lie, if left unchallenged, will keep you small in rooms you were meant to lead. Low self-esteem also invites harmful people into your life. When you don't know your value, you settle for mistreatment. You tolerate manipulation, disrespect, and emotional neglect because deep down you believe that's all you deserve. And so you attract partners, friends, and even mentors who reflect the dysfunction you haven't yet healed from. This becomes a cycle. The more they mistreat you, the more your self-worth decreases. And the more your self-worth decreases, the more you cling to their validation. But that's the deception. You're seeking love in places that only perpetuate your wound. Healing begins when you stop trying to earn love and start embodying the truth that you are already loved, deeply, divinely, and unconditionally. And until you internalize that truth, the cycle continues. This enemy also affects your spiritual life. You start to believe that God only uses stronger people, that your mistakes disqualified you, that you need to fix yourself before you're usable. But that's the lie. The truth is, God has always chosen the broken to do the unthinkable. Moses stuttered. David failed. Elijah battled depression. Yet each of them was called, anointed, and used mightily. Your brokenness is not a disqualification, it's an invitation. When you surrender your weakness to God, He wraps it in grace and makes it a weapon against the very darkness that tried to silence you. But low self-esteem will try to keep you in hiding. It will tell you you're not ready, not holy enough, not mature enough. And if you believe it, you'll miss the divine appointments already waiting for your yes. Perhaps the most dangerous aspect of low self-esteem is that it can become part of your identity without you realizing it. You begin to live small, love small, dream small, not because of what others did to you recently, but because of what you've been rehearsing internally for years. You settle for less in every area of your life and then call it humility. But humility is not self-hatred. It's not shrinking so others can feel comfortable. True humility is knowing your worth and choosing to walk in it with grace. The enemy wants you to confuse humility with low self-worth so that you never fully step into your God-given power. But today, you can break that illusion. Today, you can uproot every lie, cancel every agreement you made with fear, and begin rebuilding your identity on truth. You don't need more compliments. You need inner conviction. You don't need more applause. You need divine assurance. Your worth is not based on performance, popularity, or approval. It was established before the foundations of the world. Heaven already said yes to you. Your identity is not broken. It is becoming. And as you continue healing, evolving, and rising, you will begin to see yourself the way God sees you. Chosen, equipped, powerful, and worthy. There are enemies that attack you from the outside, but some of the most stubborn enemies are the ones you allow to live inside of you. Through your daily habits, your subconscious beliefs, and your inner programming. These enemies don't announce themselves loudly. They show up in subtle ways: procrastination, avoidance, negative self-talk, comfort zone addiction. They convince you that you'll start tomorrow, that it's too late now, or that you need to wait for the perfect time. And so you wait and wait, while your calling sits dormant. But the truth is, destiny doesn't wait for the perfect conditions. Growth happens when you decide to act despite the discomfort. And every day that you postpone your purpose, you're partnering with delay. It's not always the enemy stopping you. Sometimes it's your habits keeping you in bondage. One of the biggest enemies to personal growth is procrastination. It seems harmless at first, putting off tasks, waiting for more clarity, choosing rest over responsibility. But over time, it becomes a spiritual stronghold. It paralyzes your potential, fogs your mind, and slowly kills your discipline. Chosen one, procrastination is not just laziness. It's a fear-based delay tactic. It often masks deeper wounds, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment. You avoid starting because starting makes it real. And once it's real, it can be criticized. But here's the truth. Your first draft doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. Movement creates momentum. And once you break through the paralysis of procrastination, you'll realize how much power was buried under the fear. Another silent enemy is lack of discipline. Discipline is what bridges the gap between vision and manifestation. Without it, dreams remain ideas. Many chosen ones have powerful callings, prophetic insight, divine creativity. But without consistency, none of it becomes fruit. Discipline is spiritual warfare. Waking up early, praying even when you don't feel like it, working on your goals day after day, that's how you take back territory from the enemy. But many people reject discipline because they associate it with punishment, when in truth, it's a path to freedom. Discipline doesn't restrict your life, it unlocks your destiny. Without it, you will constantly restart the same cycles, wondering why nothing is changing. But with it, you will break patterns, build momentum, and become unstoppable. Overindulgence is another common enemy. It shows up as binge-watching, overeating, compulsive scrolling, impulsive spending, temporary pleasures that numb the pain of spiritual emptiness. These behaviors are often coping mechanisms rooted in unhealed wounds. You aren't lazy. You're exhausted from carrying trauma. You don't lack motivation. You lack clarity. And so you seek comfort instead of progress. But those comforts become chains. They dull your senses. They steal your time. They drain your energy. And over time, you begin to forget what it feels like to live on purpose. But chosen one, your soul cannot thrive on distraction. You were designed for depth. And every time you trade purpose for pleasure, you're giving away a piece of your future for a moment of escape. Limiting beliefs are perhaps the most powerful enemies of personal progress. These are subconscious narratives formed by childhood experiences, societal conditioning, or past failures. I'll never be successful. People like me don't make it. I'm not good with money. I always mess things up. These beliefs are not truth. They are internalized trauma pretending to be wisdom. And as long as you agree with them, you create a ceiling over your life that God never put there. The chosen one must renew their mind daily. You must catch the lie, confront it, and replace it with truth. That's why Scripture calls us to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. Until your belief system aligns with your divine identity, your behavior will always fall short of your destiny. Toxic relationships are another major barrier to personal growth. You cannot heal in the same environment that broke you. Some of the people in your life are not just distracting you, they are destroying you. They don't believe in your vision. They downplay your gifts. They mock your spirituality. And yet, you stay out of guilt, obligation, or fear of being alone. But the truth is, some connections must be severed for your spirit to expand. You were not called to babysit brokenness. You were called to walk in wholeness. And that requires boundaries. That requires separation. That requires obedience. Every time you choose peace over people-pleasing, your spirit grows stronger. And the stronger your spirit becomes, the clearer your path becomes. Fear of the unknown is one of the most underestimated enemies. It convinces you to cling to what's familiar, even if it's painful, because at least you understand it. But growth requires stepping into mystery. Faith requires walking into what you cannot yet see. The comfort zone may feel safe, but it's suffocating your destiny. Staying there might protect your ego, but it will starve your soul. The chosen one is not called to comfort. They are called to courage. And courage doesn't mean you're fearless. It means you move despite fear. Every time you obey the whisper of the Holy Spirit instead of the scream of fear, you silence the voice of the enemy. And in that obedience, you expand into the person you were always created to be. A lack of vision is another subtle enemy of progress. You can't hit a target you haven't defined. Many people feel stuck not because they lack talent, but because they lack clarity. They don't know where they're going, so every distraction feels like a direction. That's why writing the vision is so important. That's why prayer and planning go hand in hand. You must partner with heaven by setting intention. Purpose without planning leads to frustration. Chosen one, it's time to stop wandering. Sit with God. Ask for direction. Write down what you hear. Create structure around your spirit, and watch how everything begins to align. After walking through these 7 enemies, it's clear that the Chosen One's path is not for the faint of heart. The battles are deep, often invisible and always personal, but they are not meant to break you. They are designed to build you. Every confrontation, every heartbreak, every setback has been shaping you into the warrior of light you were born to be. You are not weak because you've struggled. You are not behind because you've had to fight harder. You are rare. You are sacred. And your journey reflects the weight of your assignment. You didn't come here just to survive. You came to awaken, to liberate, and to walk in divine authority. And the more you recognize these enemies, the more you reclaim your power. Awareness is the beginning of freedom. Chosen one, there is a greater purpose behind every attack you faced. Each enemy tried to stop you because of the light you carry. But what they didn't expect was your resilience. They didn't know you'd rise again and again, stronger, wiser, and more spiritually awake. And now that you know who the enemies are, whether they're false friends, spiritual oppressors, internal doubts, or inherited habits, you can begin to disarm them one by one. You're not fighting for your life anymore. You're fighting for your legacy, for your future, for the souls attached to your obedience. And when you fight with clarity, there is no force strong enough to stop what God has ordained. Your destiny is real. Your calling is real. And now, your courage is real too. If this message spoke to your soul, don't let it pass like just another video. Comment below and declare what enemy you're overcoming right now. Write it down. Claim it. Own your breakthrough. Whether it's fear, toxic relationships, procrastination, or betrayal, put it in the light and let your healing begin. And if this video helped you awaken something within, like it now and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next prophetic word that's coming for you. And listen, to everyone who has supported us through Buy Me a Coffee, your generosity fuels this mission and helps us reach more chosen ones around the world. If you'd like to support this channel and help us grow, the link is in the first pinned comment. Thank you for walking with us. And if this message moved you, don't stop here. Watch the video that's on screen right now. You'll see how everything that was meant to harm you is actually working for your good. Until next time, stay strong, stay grounded, and stay aligned.